Welcome to the fourth section of this video course, Querying the Database. In this section, we will closely look at the SQL language and learn about all the different aspects of the language so we can query our database. In the first video, we will learn about SQL and how we can query data in MySQL with the select command. In the second video, we'll then modify the data in the database, and in the third video, we will create new objects and learn how to design your database tables. I will explain the best practices for querying the database in video 4, and in the fifth video, we will look at the new querying features in MySQL 8. In the last two videos, we will see what indexes are and how we can manage large tables with partitioning. Let's get started. So this video will show you how to query your database. In this video, we will learn the basics about SQL, and I will show you how you can use the select command to query data in your MySQL database. Then we will see how we can group and filter data and how we can use single and multi-row functions. So let's get started with the basics of SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is a relatively old query language. It was created in the 1970s. SQL is a declarative language. That means that we do not tell the database what the database should do to turn the results, but what the result should look like. The database will figure out itself what it has to do in order to get the results that we want. To query data from our database, we use the select command. The select command is one of the most common and most powerful commands in SQL. The simplest select command looks like this: select star from employees. This command tells the database to select all columns from the table employees. Resulting from this, you will receive all rows from this table. When writing queries, always specify which columns you want to receive. It is a bad practice to specify star and select all columns from a table. So, when querying a table, always specify the rows that you want to get. For example, select first name, last name from employees. This query returns all first and last names from the table employees. Specifying the columns we want to have returned is called projection. Note that SQL is pretty forgiving. It does not matter if you specify the commands in upper or lowercase, or if you specify them on one line or multiple lines. SQL commands are always terminated with a semicolon. We have selected certain columns from the table, but always received all rows of the table. If we want to filter the output of the select command, we can use the where clause to only select certain rows. So we can add conditions to our SQL statements to receive only rows that match this condition. For example, I can only display employees where the salary is larger than a certain value by specifying select first name, last name from employees where salary is larger than 5,000. The where clause is always after the from clause. Note that the row referred in the where clause does not necessarily need to be in the column list provided after the select keyword. The where clause supports many operators, which are listed in this table. You can use arithmetic operators and descriptive operators such as the between clause. You can also use the like clause to perform string operations. Using logical operators, you can combine multiple conditions in one statement. For example, I can use the AND operator to only return rows where both conditions match. The order of the output of any query is how the rows are organized in the storage engine. So the order of the output can change depending on the data in the table. To make sure the result is always ordered the same way, you can use the order by clause. Here, you can specify the order of the result and also add ascending or descending to order the result in ascending or descending order. To summarize what we have seen so far, let's have a look at a complete select statement. This statement selects the rows for the columns first name, last name, and salary from the table employees. but with the where clause, we only get names of the people where the salary is larger than 5,000. The result is then ordered by salary with the highest salary first. SQL statements always have the same order of clauses. First, the select keyword, followed by the columns, then the from keyword, the table name, the where keyword, the conditions, then the order by keyword, and then the order clause. So now we have seen how a typical select statement is structured. When selecting data, we can also apply functions to the values queried from the table. There are two kinds of functions in MySQL: single row functions and multi-row functions. Let's have a look at both of these kinds of functions. I'm going to start with the single row functions. Single row functions are functions that are applied to every single row returned by the statement. For example, I can use the single row function upper to convert a string to an uppercase string. Examples of the most common uppercase functions are upper, lower, length, round, year, month, and if null. The other kind of functions are the multi-row functions, sometimes also called grouping functions. These can be a little harder to understand because they involve grouping of data. For example, I can use the sum function to calculate the sum of a column, or I can use the average function to calculate an average of a certain column. What all these functions have in common is that they take multiple rows and return only one single row as a result. Common multi-row functions are sum, count, average, max, and min. So let's see how we can use those multi-row functions to group data. To group data, we use the group by clause and specify which fields are used to aggregate the data. These are typically the fields which are not mentioned in a multi-row function. Let's consider the query on this slide. For each department ID in the table employees, we calculate the average salary of the employees in that department. Note that this query will return one row for every department. These queries are typically used to aggregate data and can be very powerful. SQL joins are another extremely powerful concept. You can use joins to connect multiple tables together and query multiple tables in one statement. Here is an example of a join statement. A join statement is a statement that connects two tables together. This means that there is a table on the left side of the join clause and one table on the right side of the join clause. These two tables are then joined together based on the data in one column of each table with the on clause. Alright, let's summarize what we saw in this video. In this video, we saw how we can query data in the database using the select command. With the select command, I can use the where clause to filter rows, I can use the order by clause to order data by a certain column, and I can use group by to aggregate my results. Using joins, we can query multiple tables in a single query.